FAE is a little bit of a pain in the nipple, but only if you don't know what you are doing. What is up, guys? This is Cobb. We're going to be talking about the ultimate economy team for taking on FAE in hard mode Doom Tower. This is the team that I'm going to be using, but we're also going to be talking about other champions that you can kind of substitute in for each of these guys. So if you don't have the Deacon or you don't have the Cold Heart or whatever, don't worry too much about it. We're going to be talking about some subs as well. But most importantly, perhaps we're also going to be talking about some more advanced tips for how to make a full auto team for your FAE runs. FAE is an incredibly powerful boss for you to have on farm in Doom Tower, and so having a full auto team up and running is what it's all about. First, brand new exclusive promo link time. Click on the link down below at the top of the description box right now, meant to create a new raid account and get your hands on Bambus 4-Leaf completely for free as your starter legendary, man. Bambus 4-Leaf bringing all kinds of buffs, increased attack, increased accuracy, big old shields across your entire team, as well as an AoE decreased speed on his AO1. The Panda has got your back for all of your supporting needs, plus you'll also get a To-Go, another free epic champion when your account hits level 15. You're also going to get Alice, free legendary, as well as a starter login reward as well if you create an account in the coming weeks. And so for an unbelievable start to your new raid account in 2025, make sure to click on that beginner promo link down below right now to get started. Okay, so when it comes to taking on the FAE boss, what are some of the key ingredients that you need? Well, the best advice I ever got going into FAE was just build a go first style arena team that can, well, ensure that you go first and nuke down a big wave of enemies all at once in one fell swoop. This is great advice because, of course, the FAE boss is going to be summoning a mirror image of all of your champions right at the start of the fight, and you want to blast them down as quickly as possible, right? So try building a go first style arena team and then throw 2 or 3 10-meter control champions into the mix as well, so that you can then control the boss's 10-meter as much as possible once you've nuked down all of the mirror images. Here's how you can do that. The 4 roles that you want to build into the FAE boss are going to be as follows, right? You're going to want a 10-meter booster on the team. That's going to be the fastest champion on your team to ensure that all of your champions go first. You're then going to want a decreased defense champion with an AoE decreased defense skill. You then need at least 1, if not potentially 2, big AoE nukers, right? Big AoE damage dealers. And then you want your 10-meter decreased champions, ideally 2 or 3 champions on the team that can decrease enemy 10-meter and or decrease speed. And so those are your 4 roles, right? The 10-meter booster is the most important role on the team. They're going to ensure that you're not just instantly dead against the boss. For me, I'm using Deacon Armstrong. This guy is unbelievable against the FAE. He's not the only option. We're going to cover some others in just a second, but Deacon Armstrong is so good because he brings not only 10-meter fill, but 10-meter decrease as well on his A3, then gives himself an extra turn, and then can attack him with his A2 and place the decreased defense debuff as well. So Deacon actually checks multiple boxes for what you're looking for in FAE. Fantastic champ. If you were working with a mega budget and you're just trying to progress through normal mode FAE for the first time, something like a Diabolist is going to do a great job as well. She can open up in the fight with her A3, fill the 10 meter of all allies by 15% and decrease enemy 10 meters by 15% as well. She's budget as hell, but she can do a good job for you in normal mode at least. Next up on the budget side, we've got High Katoon, 30-day login reward champion. She brings 10-meter fill, but she also brings increased speed. Now, you got to be careful with this. This is a fine buff to bring to the fight, but you got to make sure that the High Katoon mirror image that the boss summons is dying very quickly and is not able to get off her A2. Otherwise, she's going to place increased speed buff on the boss, right? Which is a big problem. So you got to make sure that you're killing off the mirror images before the enemy High Katoon can get off their increased speed. If you're running a champion that brings a 10-meter boost, but it also brings an increased speed buff, that's just something to be careful of. And another budget-ish 10-meter booster that you can bring is, of course, Seeker. Huge 10-meter boost coming in from Seeker. It's a 30% 10-meter fill and an increased attack buff. But again, just like with the High Katoon, you got to make sure that if you are running a Seeker as your 10-meter booster, that you are then killing the enemy Seeker instantly before it can get its move. And we're going to be talking about how you can do that a little bit later on in the video. To touch real quick on your AoE decreased defense champions, this can really be anything on the team. Again, Deacon Armstrong is already doing this job for me in my team, but another option that you might want to think about running is something like a Thalesia. This is quite a hard-hitting epic champ in terms of attack champs that also does place decreased speed on an AoE, so she can kind of fill the role of nuker plus decreased defense champ on a team like this, and make sure that this champion is going second, right? They need to move instantly after your 10-meter booster has had their 10, so there's going to be a little bit of speed tuning involved, of course, with setting up like a perfect team for farming Dark Fae, but Valencia can do the job very, very well. And another, of course, would be the campaign farmable, the wondrous, the scantily clad War Maiden herself, man, with the AoE on her A3, 310 cooldown, 100% land rate, strong version, decreased defense, the most budget of budget options, but she can do the job just fine. Now, next up, the 10-meter control champions, right? Strictly for 10-meter control, I'm going to go ahead and include Armiger in this team. Fun fact is that I actually still use Armiger to this day for the hardest difficulty of Dark Fae in hard mode Doom Tower. It's like Armiger alongside a bunch of legendaries and a mythical champ, you know, in like my actual main team. But Armiger's great as a budget option for controlling the boss 10-meter because of his A1. Obviously, great stuff as long as he's built with 100% crit. He gets that 30% 10-meter reduction against, well, a single target. The only thing with Armiger is that when he's against the boss, you want to disable him from using his A2, otherwise he will prioritize using the A2 at often bad times, and so just disabling this and making sure that he's spamming the A1, he's going to be a great option for 10-meter control. Another dedicated 10-meter controller that you might want to bring along is something like an Allure, who has a triple hitter, attacking 3 times at random, decrease the target's 10-meter by 25% on each crit, and so she can do a lot of the job on her own if you want to bring along a dedicated 10-meter controller. But even better is kind of option number 2. This is to bring along champions that are kind of a little bit of a hybrid, right? Royal Guard is going to bring a whole bunch of 10-meter control and a decreased speed debuff on his A3, which is lovely, right? Each hit has a chance of placing decreased speed and also has a chance of decreasing 10-meter by a whole bunch. Great stuff, but he also brings a big AoE hit on his A2, which is going to help us blast our way through the waves and kill off all of those mirror images, right? So bringing a 10-meter controller that also doubles up as one of your damage dealers, right? As one of your nukers, one of your AoE nukers, is like the best possible case scenario, and so Royal Guard is a great option again to bring along into Dark Fae. Similarly, great for this role is of course the Cold Heart as well, who brings a big attack all enemies on her A2, and this thing can hit pretty hard as long as you've got your Cold Heart built out decently. It helps as well that she's void affinity, so she's never going to weak hit and you don't have to worry about her weak hitting against the mirror images. And then on the A3, she brings that single target hitter that decreases enemy 10-meter by 100% and hits really hard too. And so Cold Heart is a fantastic rare kind of budget option as well to bring into Dark Fae as one of those like hybrid 10-meter controller nuker roles. Now, even better than any of those are some of the recently tossed out fusion nukers that have come about. So if you've went ahead and fused Thor not too long ago, he brings all kinds of big AoE damage dealing skills. On his A3 he brings a decreased speed, and then on his A1 he's got a double hitter with a chance of decreasing enemy 10-meter by 10%. So if you fuse Thor, he's probably going to be in your Dark Fae team, right? He smashes through all of the mirror images and then helps out with 10-meter control as well. And another champ that's similarly pretty darn good for this role is going to be Gretel Hagbane, another recent-ish fusion. One that I think quite a lot of people skipped out on, but if you did fuse Gretel on her A3, she brings an attack all enemies, decrease the 10-meter of all enemies by 25%, right? And so it smacks, and she gets the 10-meter control in the same go. So she's another one of those kind of legendary 10-meter nuker hybrids. Again, don't be too intimidated. If you're in normal mode Doom Tower, you're probably going to be able to get by with just running something like a Kale as your big AoE nuker with his A2. Just your starting champion is probably going to do just fine into normal mode Dark Fae for blasting through all of the mirror images, and then you can have a couple of dedicated 10-meter controller champions to handle the boss. Now for some more advanced tips that might stop you struggling and allow you to set up a full auto Dark Fae team. And when I say advanced, these are just things that you can bear in mind when building your Dark Fae team, like I have done here with this very budget team for hard mode and for this demonstration. You want to pay attention to the team affinity chart right here. If you're not familiar with how affinities work in the game, you want to make sure that your nukers and your damage dealers, in my case it's the Cold Heart, who we don't have to worry about because she's void affinity, right? She can't weak hit, so that's great. But in this case, the Royal Guard and the Dark Elhain are both running as magic affinity, and that's very deliberate. I'm making sure that my nukers and my big AoE damage dealers in particular are at least normal hitting against the targets that are going up against, or they are strong hitting against the targets they're going up against, right? So when the Dark Fae summons mirror copies of all of my champions, my nukers are not going to risk weak hitting into a random force affinity champion that I put in the team somewhere, you know, and then suddenly that champion lives and it doesn't die in the big nuke opener, and then we've got problems, you know? So that's just something to bear in mind as well, right? If you're running a couple of big force affinity nukers and damage dealers on your team, you probably want the rest of the team to either be force affinity or magic affinity, so that your nukers are never going to run that risk of weak hitting against a random spirit affinity champ that's showing up in the team, for example. Another key tip is going to be actually tuning the team's AI, which I have them saved down here. As you can see, this is my actual Dark Fae team that I used to farm like the harder stages of Dark Fae, and maybe I'll show that off, I guess, before the end of the video, but this is the budget team that we're working on, and some things that you might want to set up in your team. First of all, speed tuning we've already touched on. My Deacon Armstrong is running at 240 speed. He has to be the fastest champ on the team with his 10-meter boost. That's very, very crucial, of course. If I was running a different champion that was also bringing the decreased defense, I'd need to make sure that there's something like 235 speed or something, so just slower than the Deacon Armstrong, so that they get off that big AoE decrease defense right away, and then you have the nukers come in after the fact, and they can all be within like 30 or 40 speed or whatever of your 10-meter booster to get their job done. My Armiger is actually running quite fast as well, to be fair, 235. The tip really is this. If you're running your 10-meter booster at, say, 240 speed, try and have the rest of your team within like 30 or 40 speed of your 10-meter booster, just to ensure that they're all going to get to move before the enemy mirror image 10-meter booster also gets to move, because then that could throw a huge wrench in the works, and suddenly the AI is jumping in before your biggest and slowest damage dealer. Maybe it's your Dark Elhain is running at like 160 speed or something and she's way too slow. And you don't want the enemy team to be sort of jumping in and getting to move before your Dark Elhain, in this example, gets to do what she wants to do, right? Which is kill them all. So I'd highly recommend trying to build all your champs within like 40 speed or 50 speed-ish of each other. Now, another thing that you might want to do, and this is more for if you are effectively killing off the Dark Fae, but you want to set up a full auto team, is going to be make sure that the AI is set up in such a way that your team have their key skills ready to use and in the correct order in round 3 of the fight, right? So for me with Deacon Armstrong, it seems to work pretty well if I allow him to open with his 10-meter boost and his 10-meter decrease, A3, against the waves, but then I don't allow him to use it ever again after that, right? He can open the round against the waves with the A3, and then he's not allowed to use it again. That seems to work pretty good. This is going to vary a lot for your team, by the way. It's going to take some trial and error for you to get this right. For example, the Dark Elhain, I don't mind her using a big AoE skill on the very first wave to sort of blast them down, but against the second wave, I don't want it to use that anymore. I needed to have it ready to prioritize the hell out of that against the boss itself. So with all of that said and done, the run looks a little bit something like this. Alright, here we go. So same deal again. The Deacon's going to come in with a big old 10-meter tweaks, get us that big old 10-meter boost, and this time the Cold Heart's going to attack in last once all of the mirror images are dead, which, oh my god, dude, Royal Guard just takes care of business before the Dark Elhain even has to come in, getting about 17 extra 10s from his Relentless set. But then most importantly, the Cold Heart's going to come in now right at the end, and bam, get to eviscerate a whole bunch of the boss's 10-meter. Now, you might have noticed that Cold Heart has 100% 10-meter decrease on an A3, but it barely touched the boss's 10-meter. The boss does have a lot of 10-meter resistance built into the passive of the boss's kit, right? So it's not a surefire thing. That's why you have to build usually 2 or 3 10-meter controllers to bring it into Dark Fae as well. And yeah, if you want to make this team more powerful, by the way that you scale this team up is by just having one nuker on the team that's powerful enough to just one-shot everything reliably. That's like the best way that you can do it. Because then that opens up other spots on the team for more dedicated 10-meter controllers against the boss. And then besides that, you're just trying to make the team faster, right? Because at the end of the day, the Dark Fae boss is quite fast on its own, especially before you get that big old decreased speed up and stuff. And so just having a 10-meter booster that's like 300 speed or something, and then everybody else in your team is operating at like 200 plus, 220 plus, that kind of thing, you're going to get to go a long way into hard mode Dark Fae at that point. But again, in normal mode Dark Fae, No problem, man. 10-meter booster with like 200 speed, you're probably good to go against like most of the flaws of normal mode Darkfare, right? The stat requirements are going to be way, way lower. So hopefully this team just gives you an idea of something that you can look to build and build upon, I guess, if you're just getting started in Darkfare and you want to get unstuck for the first time. All right, man, thanks for watching. Remember, again, to use my beginner promo link, which is down below at the top of the video description box to get your hands on To Go, as well as Bambus 4-Leaf when you create your new raid account in 2025, man. Brand new exclusive, man. The good old panda is back in action. Hey, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm going to catch all of y'all just a tad bit later, man.